characterized as well sometimes.
Interesting. I think we are, according to my timing, 2 minutes past 1. Doreen, what do you say? Shall we start?
I think we should.
Yeah, okay. We have around about 14 people. We have our speaker and our responder. So maybe I will start very quickly and just welcome everyone who is here. Really nice for me to actually see that Lex and Guy are here. So I do want to say a quick word of thanks to our predecessors for this Research Integrity Lunchtime Seminar, which started quite a while even before I joined the Research Integrity crowd. So it's really nice to see that Guy and Lex are here, and we can say thank you for handing the reins over to myself and Yuri. I'm not sure if Yuri is joining us today, but we took over in the new academic year this year. And it's really nice to be able to conduct this also online. It has some disadvantages. We cannot see you and offer you lunch. But the upside is that we've, able to have participants from every time zone around the world. So welcome everyone. The setup of this meeting, you may or may not know already, is we have a particular speaker each round. And our speaker today is Sander. He'll say a few words about himself. And the idea is that Sander will present a topic of his interest that's obviously relating to responsible conduct of research, research integrity, or research ethics. And then Gerben has kindly agreed. Gerben Terriet will start off or kick off the questions by asking a few questions to Sander on his topic of presentation, and then we open the floor up to everyone else, and we hope to have an interactive session. That's the purpose of our lunchtime seminars. Also, please feel free to eat or drink or whatever you are planning to do during this hour besides joining us. I do want to ask and mention actually that Doreen has already started to record these sessions because we would like to make them available on the NRIN site. Doreen, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. And as I said earlier, I can always edit you out or cut in this clip if you do not want to be inside.
You can just send a private message to Doreen if you do not want to be on the recording, but the idea is that they will be available on the Netherlands Research Integrity site, also for other interested people who could not join us to listen back to previous speakers and their talks. So without much ado, I would then like to hand over the floor to Sander, who I met a few months ago, who actually contacted me. We had a very interesting discussion about open science, which is also going to be your talk of interest. So I will hand the floor over to you, Sander, if you would please start off with a small introduction and carry on. I believe you have about 25 minutes, and then we'll give it to Gerben for questions.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to speak here. My name is Sander Bosch, and I have brought some slides, so I'd like to share my screen now. What I'm going to talk about is the plan, the Open Science Plan for the VU. So I'm the Open Science Coordinator at the Vrije Universiteit in Amsterdam. And I'd like to tell you something about that, the values that underlie this program, and specific for this group, of course, also the link that I see between open science and research integrity. And that's what Gauri and I talked about a while ago as well. So first, a little background on me. My background is in neuroscience, cognitive neuroscience. I completed my PhD in Nijmegen at the Radboud University in 2015, and then went on to do a postdoc. And in 2019, I decided to go into research support because I figured that this way, the other side of the medal, I could try and change the system in a better way than as an active researcher. So I started out as a project manager at the VU on research support. And then about 2 weeks before the first lockdown, I became the Open Science Coordinator at the VU. And my task was basically to bring together all the initiatives that were already ongoing on open science and build an open science program from those. So in the past 1.5 years, I've made some connections to different people within and outside of the VU. So I was a member of the Accelerate Open Science team, which was part of the National Program Open Science and POS. I'm now also a member of the VU Committee for Recognition and Rewards, and I'll get back to this, why I think that's important for me as an Open Science Coordinator to be part of this group. And I'm, since this year, a member of the Young Science in Transition group, which is a group that also discusses recognition and rewards, but then from a perspective of early career academics. So when I started defining what the program at the VU should be, of course, first question was, okay, what is the definition of open science that we have? So I looked around at some definitions online and at other universities at the EU. So if you look at Wikipedia, this is a figure of open science. It includes a few topics: a peer review methodology, open source, open data. Then, if you look at one of the plans from another university, this is the beautiful picture from Utrecht. They've defined or operationalized open science as having 4 pillars, which are open access, fair data and software, public engagement, and rewards and incentives. And what I like about this picture is that they go from the past into a future for science, and there are some values and principles in here. Then, if you look at the TU Delft, they have many more pillars and some cross-sectional topics like rewards and recognition, skills for open science. But you see the same, a few of the same topics here. So open access, fair data, open education is mentioned here as well. Then if you look at the national program Open Science, there's 3 main lines: open access, fair data, come back again. Citizen science is mentioned here. Skills, rewards, metrics are cross-sectional. And then if you look at the EU definition, they define 8 topics. Citizen science is back here as well. Fair data, scholarly communication, which includes open access, and skills, rewards. So you see quite a few concepts here that come back in each of these definitions. But what I didn't like about some of these is that these definitions are, for me, they don't belong at the same level in the hierarchy. So I was looking at I was searching for a hierarchy for open science for the program at the VU, and also to kind of make sense of where these concepts fit together. So then in 2020, the first draft of the recommendation for open science came from the UNESCO, which of course is a huge organization, huge society, and there was a very big open call to contribute to this definition for open science and the underlying principles. And the definition that the UNESCO draft recommendation has is what I like a lot. It says open science aims to make scientific knowledge openly available, accessible, and reusable for everyone, and aims to increase scientific collaborations and the sharing for the benefits of society and science, of course, and open the processes of scientific knowledge creation beyond the traditional scientific community. And I really like this definition because for me it cuts to the heart of what the values and principles underlying open science are. So I don't think in this group I have to explain why open science is an important thing, but I'll do it very briefly here with the example of the research cycle. If you think of the research cycle as the development of an idea, the design, then collect and analyze data, and then submit or add to the scientific literature. Often ideas aren't shared between researchers and with society for that matter. The design and protocols, methodology are often not shared either. Then data is often not shared either or available upon request, and then it's surprisingly difficult to actually get those data. And then not even the research output or the publication itself can be accessed by many people around the world. Even though a lot of research is funded by publicly funded sources. So the idea, the central tenet of open science is transparency about the scientific process and its outputs. And why is this important? Some of the parts from the definition from the UNESCO fit really well here. So for me, there are three main values, and then some corresponding principles that underlie this. So one of the most important ones is quality and integrity, and that's probably also the perspective that many of you share in this research integrity network. Quality and integrity is one of the core values behind open science, and some principles that belong to that are reproducibility, and especially I want to mention scrutiny here. Last week I attended the online, I wasn't at location, but I attended the lecture by Elizabeth Bick, and yeah, it was I think Lex called it a sobering lecture, and I fully agree with that. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done there for this transparency and to clean this the current situation. Then another very important core value for me is collective benefit. So the UNESCO mentioned, and for example, also the universal rights of man. I don't know. They mentioned that access to scientific knowledge is a universal right. So that means that we need to think about how we make this, how we can actually make sure that this creates collective benefit, that this transparency that we strive for actually also reaches everyone. So important principles there are academic sovereignty, which relates to the sovereignty to govern these data and to make sure that they are open. And this plays into the relations that we have, for example, to scientific publishers and commercial parties. Then another core value here is diversity and equity. So I like that a lot as an end goal for open science. Science needs to be more provide equitable opportunities and to foster collaboration and participation of researchers among themselves, but also science or society at large. So if we then go to the research as an example, I think open science basically relates to every part of this research cycle, from initiation to planning to acquisition to publication, evaluation, as well as we heard last week as well. Open evaluation is a very valuable thing, and outreach valorization. So some of the practices that you probably know very well that try to increase the transparency of this process and all the outputs can be pre-registration, research data management practices, documentation, open access, open evaluation, and public engagement. So for me, and that was quite important for me, is that the scope of open science doesn't only concern research. So I think these values, these principles, they also belong to education. And since I mentioned public engagement, valorization as well, this goes to the three core core tasks of a university, actually. So according to Dutch law, and I think laws in many other countries as well, the university has 3 tasks, which is research, education, and the sharing of this research, valorization. So some of these topics are in all of the definitions for open science, so like open access, fair data and software, open evaluation. Some of them aren't. So for example, in Utrecht, what I like a lot is they put a lot of emphasis on public engagement, which contains things like science communication, citizen science. At the VU, we have a very nice example of this, community service learning, where students can follow courses and do specific courses or activities with partners in society. Then in terms of education, educational resources can be shared. And there was a recent manifesto from my colleagues in Utrecht that also argued for the open science mindset. So making sure that the open science mindset and the skills are trained at a very early start in the academic career. So that means also during bachelor and master's studies, open science principles should underlie all the education that we do. So, okay, that's well and good. We have some values, we have some principles, and they fit nicely upon the tasks of the university. What do we require to make open science a reality? So I think infrastructure is very important here. So we need to make it possible. Support, skills, and knowledge. We need to make it easy. There's a big task for the university libraries, IT departments here. Then community is very important. We need to make it normative. And there's a lot of enthusiasm already among groups of researchers and teachers, but we need to bring them into contact with each other and to make sure that they can learn from each other and share their experiences. Then, of course, at a policy level, institutionally, but also extra institutionally, we need to make it mandatory, if possible. And then one of the most important parts here is recognition and rewards. We need to make it rewarding. We need to make sure that people who actually engage in these activities are rewarded for that, because otherwise we cannot really expect people to do that. So then if we bring that all together, this is the VU Open Science Program. And in the interest of time, I can stop here, but I do have some examples of the things that we've planned at the VU. So I'm looking at the organization here. Do I have a few more minutes?
Yeah, please go ahead for another 5 minutes, and then we can switch to the questions.
Exactly. Okay, perfect. So then, if we talk about infrastructure, I'd like to go through these 5 requirements and briefly discuss what we have planned. So at the VU, we have a dedicated program for this infrastructure part. It's called the program Research Data Support, and there are quite a few tools that they're implementing and trying to implement that support research data management and these open science practices at the VU. So an example here is, for example, DMP Online. I was involved in that as a project manager at the VU 2019. We're working on the OSF, the Open Science Framework, as an institutional license for the VU for research management, but we're also trying to integrate, for example, archiving services into OSF. A project for next year is containerization, so software management as well, to make it possible for our researchers to actually archive their entire research environment, digital research environment. And what strikes me for the Open Science program, we're also working on Edisources, which is a national platform for open educational resources. So there's a lot of infrastructure stuff going on here. And from the Open Science program, I'm going to support alternative routes to open access, for example, diamond open access options, and innovations in scholarly communication. So there's an open peer review pilot that I'm really enthusiastic about. What I find really important here is that the VU is not an isolated entity here, especially for policy and infrastructure. It's really important to collaborate. So there is the European Open Science Cloud, huge European project. We're working together with SURF a lot, which is an infrastructure, a Dutch infrastructure, a non-profit organization. And there are ideas for a Dutch open knowledge base now for research metadata. And I'm at the VU, we're really enthusiastic about these national collaborations and international collaborations, so that we at some point can go to a fully open workflow. This is an image that is made by Bianca Kramer and Jeroen Bosman from Utrecht. You can see that this ecosystem of infrastructure is huge, which brings me to the next requirement. We need to provide some support because this ecosystem is vast and changing very rapidly. So there are quite a few questions on research data management and these infrastructure, these tools that we have. There are quite a few roles. So what we did at the VU is we tried to combine all of these expertises into one RDM support desk. So we now have a one-stop shop, if you will, where researchers can ask their questions, and then behind the scenes we link to all the necessary experts at the VU that can help our researchers with their questions. This is ongoing work because this requires a lot of coordination between different services, but I'm quite happy with how that works. So if we go to support skills, knowledge, or training, we have a network now, a network research data services, which tries to strengthen this RDM support desk. We're working to scale up the green open access at the VU. We will provide open educational resources support in 2022. And what I'm excited about is that we can expand the curriculum of research data management and open science courses. We're also a member now, starting 1st of November 2021. We're a Carpentries member, so we can start giving workshops on data and data science and software training. And also here, I'm personally involved in a national collaboration on open science and RDM training. I think it's very important to share our resources and capacities to make sure that everyone can get to a higher level of understanding and skills and knowledge on RDM and open science. Then I'll quickly go to communities. I mentioned, I think communities are very important in this program and in this transition to open science. There's a lot of enthusiasm, and I just mentioned a few of the communities here. So there's a reproducibility, a lovely initiative in over 150 universities now across the world. All of the Dutch universities now have open science communities, which are groups of enthusiastic researchers that share experiences on open practices. CIOS was started in Amsterdam, but is now also branching out. This is a student initiative for open science. So these are master students most often. The Riot Science Club is a very nice community which is more or less related to the open science communities. And I mentioned Young Science in Transition is also branching out to more and more members to represent early career academics in the recognition and rewards discussion. So at the VU, I'm trying to actively support the open science community Amsterdam. I'm happy to see, well, my responder today, Gerben, is also involved from the HVA part. We're planning an engagement campaign for 2022 to raise awareness for open science and to make sure that our researchers can actually find all the stuff that we're doing, all the infrastructure, the tools that we have, and also the support and training. They can find that. And we're launching an open science ambassador team. So for every department, ideally, but at least every faculty, we'd like someone to be the face of the open science program within the faculty. Also here, there's a lot of international or international collaboration. The group of open science communities in the Netherlands is branching out, is now an international network. And I mentioned the national program, Open Science. There was an engagement team and I was part of that, NPOS-H. There's now a new program in the making for the next 10 years. And I hope that engagement will be another an important part of that as well, so that we can keep collaborating on this engagement and reaching new people as well. Then policy, I'm working on an open access policy for the VU. Importantly, this for me needs to be in accordance with these open science principles. It needs to be a sustainable model for open access. I think the current model for open access that we have now is not sustainable. And we're working on a cost analysis. What does open science actually cost us? And what is the current situation? Where do we create these? Where do we spend the money? Where should we spend the money? That's a very important discussion that is also on a national agenda now. And what I try to get from the VU leadership is continued commitment for not only a program, Open Science, but structural change. And of course, this is a difficult discussion because it involves structural funding. And so I'm trying to form partnerships with the strategy committees at the VU. Also here, there's a lot going on in terms of a national and international collaboration. So up until the UNESCO recommendation, which will be adopted, hopefully, in November this year, I hope that drives government, which drives NPOS, which drives VSNU, which actually connects all of these ideas. And then last, but certainly not least, recognition and rewards. This is a very important part. And maybe even the most important requirement for open science. There was a position paper, Room for Everyone's Talent, in 2019. We have a new strategy evaluation protocol in the Netherlands for the next few years, which actually for the first time now defines open science as a pillar for assessment. And I think operationalization of that pillar for assessment, I think the Hong Kong principles would serve very nicely, but this is all open for discussion for universities how to actually implement this. So that's where this recognition and rewards discussion is now. So at the VU,
if you could round off here, Sander, that would be great.
yeah, this is the last slide.
Great.
So at the VU, we have a roadshow through the faculties and services. We have a new leadership curriculum for team membership and leadership. We're changing the tenure track policy, and I'm trying to make sure that there is again structural commitment to recognition and rewards, DORA, and open science at the VU. we have a pilot on credit, but I'll skip that for now. And also here, there's a lot of possibility for national collaboration. And that's what I'd like to end on. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much, Sander. So much to discuss.